Guides here, everybody, with another down and dirty guide to DayZ. Today we're going to be having the third episode of mission editing. In case you didn't see the teaser video, I had a cinematic shot set up where I had some zombies chasing survivors. And I did that with all this information over here. Now when we go through the tutorial, it's going to be a little bit different, but the basic setup is the same. Now you'll also notice that my editor is a bit different than the one that we've been using. With DayZ 1.7.3, we no longer have to use the alternative editor, which we'd get into by pressing Alt-E on the main menu. Unfortunately, with DayZ 1.7.4, they've gone ahead and blocked the single player option again. For the cinematic camera though, I do recommend that you get DayZ 1.7.3 installed because that's what we're going to be needing. So once you have DayZ 1.7.3 installed, go ahead and click single player, press editor, and then choose the map that you want to edit. Now there are some differences with this editor compared to the one that we've been using. In this one, you don't have to initially create a side and a center and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the stuff is already set up for you. So in some ways, this editor is good for beginners, but I personally like the alternative editor because it lets me have more finer control of what it is that I want to set up. The main reason why we're going to use this editor is because when you enable the camera view, you can't remove the crosshair in the alternative editor. You have to use this editor. So that being said, let's get started. First, let's go ahead and make sure that our unit option is chosen. Either you can click it over to the right side or you can press F1. Now the first unit that we're going to place is our player, and your default settings should look like this. If not, just sort of change it up so it looks like this, as one of the requirements is that your playable character needs a radio. The next thing that we're going to have to do is enable our cinematic camera, and to do that, in your initialization box of your playable unit, type in this space exec space double quote camera.sqs double quote, and you can go ahead and hit OK. Now let's go ahead and set down some survivors. So to do that, double click anywhere they want to place a survivor. Now our survivor models are in a different faction, so click the drop down for faction and choose PMC. And over our right side on unit, you can now choose a couple different survivor models and the bandit model. Now whatever you do, don't choose the last model as that is an invisible model and you won't see any characters. After you've picked your unit, just hit OK. Now you'll notice that between my two models there's this blue line, and that means that they're in the same group. Now we don't want them to actually be in the same group because it's going to mess with some things, so go ahead and click group on the right side and click on your survivor unit and drag a line away from it. Once you let go of the mouse, there will no longer be a line between your two units. Now my unit isn't facing the correct way, so let's go ahead and click units, then click your unit, hold shift while clicking it. You can go ahead and change the way that your unit is facing. Now we want to place a couple more models down, so instead of double clicking around, what we can do is select our unit and then press Ctrl C and then press Ctrl V to paste the unit. And let's paste the second one here so that I have 3 units in total. Now in our particular case, we want all 3 of these units to perform the same action or act as a group. So to do that, let's go ahead and hit groups again. And then let's drag a line between the bottom model and our middle model. And then also let's take our top model and bind him to the middle model as well. So now our survivors are in one group. So now let's tell our survivors where to go. To do that, click waypoints on the right side of your screen. Make sure that the middle unit of your group is highlighted, and then double click right in front of that unit. So in the waypoint settings, at the first option, which is select type, let's go ahead and click the drop down and choose hold. This will tell our units to get to this waypoint and hold the position. And we're not going to care about all the rest of the settings, just hit OK. Now we're going to set another waypoint over here to tell them where to go. So let's move the map over a bit and double click a bit further. And the default setting is move, and we're going to keep it as that. So let's go ahead and just hit OK. Now we have it so that our units will go to the first hold waypoint, and they will hold that position until we tell them to go to the next waypoint. To do that, we're going to need a trigger. Now we haven't gone over triggers yet, but essentially it's like an on-off switch. And what our trigger is going to do is that when it's turned on, it's going to tell our units to move to the next waypoint. So click triggers on the right side or press F3 on your keyboard and then double click anywhere on the map. So in your axis A and your axis B fields, change the value from 50 to 5. I'll go over what that does in a second here. Then go ahead and click the activation dropdown, and there'll be a couple different options here, but let's go ahead and choose radio alpha. And next we're going to change the type of our trigger, which by clicking the type drop-down box, we'll pick switch. After you've set that, let's go ahead and hit OK. Now the axis values that we had changed before changes the circumference of this little circle over here. If we had left it at 50, it would have been a very large circle, and that would have been just kind of annoying, so we just made it smaller. So now that we've set our trigger and we've set our waypoint, we need a way to link or synchronize our waypoint system with our trigger. So to do that, you're going to need to use the synchronize option on the right side, or by pressing F5 on your keyboard. Then click and drag on your trigger over onto your hold waypoint. And now whenever your trigger gets activated, they'll move from their hold waypoint to their next waypoint. So now our survivors are set, and we're going to need to have some zombies that are going to chase them. So let's go ahead and move the map a bit over, and choose units again. Now double click behind your survivors, and let's go ahead and change the side to civilian. And then you're going to change the class to zombie. And now you have a whole bunch of different zombie units that you can pick. So let's just pick a random unit here and then hit OK. And just like we did with the survivors, we're going to select the unit and we're going to press Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V to make a couple copies of the zombies. Now that they have a couple of the zombies created, let's go ahead and make them into a group. And again, you just press F2 or click groups on the right side, and let's drag all the zombies to a single zombie in the center. Once grouped together, we likewise have to set some waypoints for them. So select your sender zombie, and then click a waypoint right in front of him, and just like with the survivors, we're going to set a hold waypoint. Hit OK, and we're going to create another waypoint about the same place where we created the second waypoint, and we're going to leave it at default settings and set it as move. So likewise, the same action is going to be that the zombies are going to hold a position until we tell them to move to the next one. Now we already have a trigger and we want the zombies to run at the same time the survivors run. So instead of creating a new trigger with maybe radio command Bravo, we're simply going to synchronize our current trigger to our hold waypoint for the zombies. Now that we have our whole little system set up here, we can go ahead and hit preview and we can activate the radio alpha command and see what happens. Now I know that I had promised that I'd be going over the camera controls in this video, but this video already has a lot of information for you guys. So I've gone ahead and already uploaded the next video, which is going to go over camera controls and also how to get your characters into vehicles and to sit down and do a couple different motions. Hope you enjoyed this video and keep on derping.